Hello and a very warm welcome to all the viewers of Detox, that is Disruptive Literacy Talks. And this is Tanma Prakash, your host of the session. Detox aims at coming together in eradicating illiteracy and focusing upon the foundational literacy and numeracy, as committed under the Sustainable Development Goal 4 and India's National Education Policy as well. Detox is an initiative of Global Dream, a disruptive movement for universal foundational literacy and numeracy. It was launched in 2014 by Dr. Sunita Gandhi, educationist and former economist at the World Bank. By using disruptive and research-based methods and processes, Detox and Global Dream aims to make India 100% literate in a time-bound mission. And moreover, we believe in disrupting the status quo when best is not the enough. Moving on to today's session, it will be based upon the foundational literacy and numeracy curriculum in schools. And with this, I would like to introduce you with the speaker of the session, Ms. Shalu Babbar, founder member Editude and an educational expert who will be speaking upon the topic strategies to build a strong foundational learning, foundational literacy and numeracy curriculum in schools. Ms. Shalu is a founder member of Editude, a project of Doon Global Schools, which aims to strengthen school system and processes. Being a part of educational consultancy groups, she carries out academic and non-academic audits of educational institutions. She is also responsible for the leadership mentoring, improving teacher skill, curriculum designing, and content development. Her journey from a teacher to a principal and then to an educational expert has been an interesting one. She has been fortunate to work in schools across the country and be shaped into an educational leader. She has led prestigious schools like Ashoka Universal School and GD Goenka International School as a principal. Presently, she is based in Dehradun and is working closely with K-12 schools towards creating futuristic and progressive curriculum. She is an adventure enthusiast, a backpacker, qualified scuba diver, and an avid trekker. She also loves to read and write. We at Detox are highly glad to have Ms. Shalu Babbar at us. Welcome, ma'am. Welcome to Detox.
Thank you, Tanmay. Thank you for such a wonderful introduction. And thank you for inviting me on this wonderful platform to share my views upon a very, very important and interesting topic, which is very close to any educational institute, the curriculum strengthening, of course, post-development.
So, yes, and as I was reading about you, and as I introduced you also, that you are a enthusiast adventure person, and you are into scuba diving, and you are into trekking. So, when did you decided to come into the education field and explore yourself over there also? Because it is very difficult sometimes for a teacher or a principal to give time to these things also.
Yes. You are absolutely right. So to just briefly tell you about my journey. I started off as a teacher long back, say about, I think, 21 years back. And at that time, I did not plan to be in this profession for a very long time, but I wanted to see how this industry works. And I realized that teaching became something very close to my heart, and I enjoyed working with children. It was challenging, and of course, because say 22 years back, the technology was not so great, and we did not have that many resources available, at the click of a button, which we have today. So I started teaching, I started enjoying my work, which is very important for any profession. And then it just took off from there. And then there was no looking back. I went on to different parts of the country. I traveled a lot, taught in different schools, different curriculum, had the opportunity to learn from people with a diverse background. We handled students coming from very different backgrounds. It was altogether a very rich learning journey that I had. Well, the adventure journey started a couple of years back, say about 4 or 5 years back. When I realized that sometimes we have to break the ties of our daily schedule and step out of our comfort zones, because we become very comfortable working in our office and in a particular schedule. But when it comes to adventure, it teaches you a lot of skills which are beyond the books. Survival, your perspective completely changes. When you are
Yes,
out
ma'am.
in nature, everything is very unpredictable, and you have to have a lot of determination and courage to complete your journey, to learn a skill. See, adventure also, besides the other things, it is skill based learning. It teaches you skills which are practically used there on the field underwater. So I think that challenged me, it pushed me. And one of the reasons I also thought of getting into adventure, because sometimes you have to face your fears. Only then will you be able to overcome them. So that was another reason, and it is very exciting. It teaches you a lot many things. There is a complete mindset shift which you experience during the adventure activity and post. And taking
Yes,
out time, I think that is something which we all must inculcate a habit of taking out time for our own development. Because unless you develop your own skills, your own self, you become very stagnant in your approach. And teachers have to be constant learners.
yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, attitude seems to be an portmanteau word. So, is there any kind of a history behind that which you would like to share?
Right. So, attitude is a thought process of a couple of academicians who are very passionate about giving India the kind of schools it needs to handle the future requirements. So, when we were conceptualizing on the name, we had a long list in front of us, and the thought was that what exactly is it that we wish to achieve by starting this group. So attitude is actually a mix of two words. It's education with the right attitude. So if you have
Okay.
the right attitude towards education, you'll be able to take it in the right spirit and move in the right direction. So that is how the word attitude started. And the chairman of Doon Global School has been very enterprising, and he wishes to help other schools in terms of quality development. We are also looking at this aspect that schools are normally people driven, and if one person shifts or changes, the entire system collapse. So we are working towards making schools more process driven. So, if your internal systems and processes are strong and they are well defined and documented, the school system moves on without any roadblock. Of course, there will be roadblocks, but you will have a strategy to overcome them. And then there is no stopping. So, your entire educational setup becomes, a process driven system.
Yes, ma'am. And now I think we should. I would like to invite you for the presentation part so that we can move further with this session. And then we'll have after the session, we'll like after the presentation, we'll have some questions also from the chat, and some
Great.
questions also I have.
Great. So, I think before I start talking about curriculum and strategies, I'll just briefly tell you from where it all started. So, a couple of years back, as a school principal, I was sitting with my team and analyzing the results. We used to analyze the results vertically, like from grade to grade, how they are progressing. So we were analyzing the results, and we came across a very surprising element that there was a trend. The trend said that there were specific grades in the progression of a child's journey where the results of English and mathematics would go down. So that was very interesting for us to see that there was a pattern. And when we started digging deeper into the pattern, we realized that because of English and mathematics scores, these were getting affected in other subjects also. So what we thought was that we must do an aptitude test for a cohort of students where we can analyze their results to a deeper extent. So we did this aptitude testing, which checked children on four parameters. So one was the verbal aptitude, the non-verbal aptitude, quantitative and qualitative, spatial. So when we analyze the results further, it was very evident that poor English and math skills were affecting other subjects. And again, to our surprise, we realized that these skills were the foundation skills. This is something which starts right at the pre-primary stage. So, you know, that was an eye opener for me as a principal, that the English, the literacy, and the numeracy has to be very well structured. It has to be a very systematic progression of concepts and skills. And if the child is able to acquire them well right at these early years, then the future progression of their academic structure becomes very organized, and they do fairly well. So that is how the term curriculum development started with me as an educationist. And then, of course, there were many things that we developed as the journey progressed. So today, I would like to share how we normally used to do it, even till date, how I do it. And if that can help the other people, it will be great. So, Tanmay, I'll be sharing my presentation. So you'll have to tell me if you can see the screen.
Okay. So yes, we are able to see the screen now.
All right, thank you. So the topic is for our discussion is that what are the strategies that we can use to build strong foundational curriculum. But I think before we progress into understanding this aspect, we need to look at this very important term, because I have seen that a lot of people in education industry mistake this term into different areas. Like, of course, it's used as a synonym for syllabus, which is not. So what is curriculum? So curriculum is basically everything and anything that we do with the child, for the child, in the school and activities outside the school, whether these activities are led by the teacher, led by the student, or it's a collaborative work between the parent and the school. So all these activities together, they culminate into your curriculum. Curriculum is very school based. It will be absolutely as per the objective that the school has set for its students. So no two schools will have the same curriculum. It will also depend on what resources as a school that you have will be part of your curriculum. Is it an important document? It is a very important document. But normally we expect a ready-made document because we feel that the board, whether it's a CBSE, ICSE, IB, or any other board, the board is supposed to provide us. But that is not the case. The board provides you a very basic framework. The detailing of it has to be initiated by the school. As I said, depending upon all the resources that you have within your campus, the infrastructure that you have provided. So the curriculum is a very important document because it is a standardized document, and it will have a timeline, it will have all the pedagogical processes, it will have the list of resources, it will have many different ingredients that will make it exhaustive. And the most important is that it has to address the need of the students. The need will be again different. Let's say school A and B will have different set of students, and these students will have different needs. So identification of needs for a school is very important. Well, what does it involve? What does the curriculum involve? You know, it is these ingredients that I have listed here are as per my understanding. Please remember, these are just samples, examples that I'm talking about. The schools may, or the educationist may pick up some, they may change some, they may add a few. Like I said, depending on what kind of curriculum you are deriving or you are framing for your school. So the curriculum has to have a purpose statement. That means what it's going to achieve. All right. So what is it that the students will be able to do after I have taught a particular segment? And has the teaching been effective? what is the approach, what is the teaching approach that I'm going to use as a school. Post all these parameters, I need to assess and evaluate. I need to have a very systematic, organized assessment methods for my children. I have assessed them. I need to evaluate whether they are on the right track. Are there any gaps? This entire document has to be a very standardized, it has to be aligned with the school objectives. The school will have objectives, it will have goals for its children. Now, after all these things are listed down, from this we derive our syllabus, what we have to teach, when we have to teach, how much of that concept we have to teach. And normally schools stop at assessment because that is the end of the concept or syllabus that we have covered. But that is not the case. There is one more final step to it, that what is the final accomplishment that a student displays after this entire teaching learning process has been completed and effectively completed. So there is a culmination of the curriculum that you have to display. Now, so I understand that there are a lot of different ingredients that goes into this exhaustive document, but please try and understand that this is a one-time exercise and then reviews happen. So if the school can establish a curriculum and work on it for a couple of months, they will see that there will be results that perhaps they were not seeing earlier. I'm showing you a sample document here. It's a tabular representation of the ingredients that I have just talked about. So this way one can, you can put it in a tabular form and try to see. This will help you, at a glance, you will be able to see what you are doing with the children, for the children. So the first thing that we need to identify is that what is the area that we want to develop. So we call it domain. Sometimes you may find that in certain documents you will read about developmental milestones. So when we are identifying the area of development, it is very important for teachers and the team who are documenting this part, that they need to understand that what are the entry points. The child is coming to me, let's say at a particular age. The child is not coming as a blank slate. They already have certain skill sets which they have. They already have acquired certain knowledge from home and external sources. So what are these entry level points? So that will give me a starting point, that from where do I need to start. Of course, once we have identified what area I wish to develop, then we are looking at skill, because skill is something which the child will acquire with practice. And that practice the school has to give through a pedagogical process. So if you have a pedagogical process, in that we list down all the activities which are going to sharpen the skill of the child. Every document that you prepare, whether it's a lesson plan, whether it's an activity that we are conducting, whether it's a curriculum document, it has to have an objective and an outcome. So objective is normally why we are doing this. And after we have done this, what is the desired outcome that we are expecting? Because everything that you do has to have an outcome. So when we are documenting our curriculum, these are the steps that you have to follow. And of course, while you are noting down these points, there will be a list of resources that are already there with the school, and there will be certain resources that you will require over and above to complete this pedagogical process, so that the area, the domain can be developed. So once these steps are complete, parallelly, we need to write down or list out the assessment technique, because it cannot happen that after you have taught certain lessons or concepts, you are sitting with a question paper. The assessment technique has to be handled while you are planning this, because certain concepts will require assessment of learning, certain concepts will require assessment for learning. So you have to take care of that as well. Just to give you a small example here, like let's say if we are developing let's say the writing skill. So we are looking at the writing skill of the child, and what do we need to develop for that? There will be stages. The child has to understand that what are the fine motor skills. The teacher has to know that fine motor skills required for writing skill, the eye hand coordination, then perhaps the gross motor, the holding of the writing equipment, and then we go to the strokes and other aspects. Now, what happens if teachers miss out on any of these areas? Then the child does not acquire this skill effectively and lags behind. And obviously, when there is certain part of the learning journey which has not been taken care of well, it will have its own repercussions later on. So that is why we see that certain children don't have good reading skills, because teachers or the curriculum did not give enough there was not much done to ensure that there is phonic drilling. So every skill will have stages. So while we are documenting our curriculum, these are certain things that you need to keep in mind. So just going back, because I missed out on one very important part, that literacy and numeracy does not only mean English and mathematics. These are skills. So literacy will have anything and everything to do with the ability to use and understand the spoken language, the print part of it, the writing skill, the digital media. Okay, and numeracy will have all the mathematical understanding and skills to solve our day-to-day problems. So it is not that you are only dealing with maths and English as subject, but these are skills, very important skills at foundation years which have to be handled. So if we look at numeracy, so it is all about thinking and communicating quantitatively. You're dealing with data, spatial awareness, understanding patterns and sequence. So these are very important things which have to be covered under your literacy and numeracy. And when you sit down documenting in this tabular form, you will be able to achieve greater results as compared to just picking up a book and going to a class and teaching what the publisher has listed in the textbook. Although I don't have anything against publishers, but I feel that teachers are the best judges to know how to teach, what to teach, and how much to teach. So that comes with a lot of work together. See, any document that we prepare, a curriculum is a very important document. So there have to be evaluations done by you for your document. So when we are doing that, we sit with the team and we ask these questions. These are cues which help us to find out and dig deeper into our work and find out if there are any gaps. So the syllabus that I planned post the curriculum, will I be able to complete this in a proper timeline? Will there be rush of syllabus? Will it be done properly? How well are the children going to understand this syllabus that I have taught? The current curriculum, is it like very heavy for the school, very heavy for teachers? It was too exhaustive, or it was too superficial? And of course, when I'm asking these questions, what I'm looking at is, what is my space for improvement and where this improvement has to happen? Do I need to improve my teachers, or do I need to look at the content and improve it there as well? So now I think once we have understood that these are the steps to curriculum formation, and we have documented it, we have kind of revisited it, let us look at some of the strategies that normally we as a team we can adopt to ensure that we have a very strong curriculum, not only for foundation years, but across the school. This curriculum documentation, it's not necessary that you do it only for pre-primary and primary. We do it throughout, right up till grade 12, even for colleges and higher education. So when we look at a strategy to ensure that we have a strong curriculum, there are certain steps that we have to follow. One is curriculum revamping. Now, it necessarily does not mean that you have to scrap everything and rebuild everything. So there will already be something, and you have to relook, revisit, and redefine it as per the need of the learner. and as per the changes that are happening in the education sector, and as per the present technology that we can use, our resources like teachers and infrastructure. So once we have revisited our curriculum, there's another very important aspect that the schools will have to look into, which is your pedagogical innovations. So pedagogy, that is the teaching part, which is the heart and soul of any educational institute, pre-primary, primary, higher education. If your teaching is strong, definitely the entire school setup becomes very innovative and strong. So pedagogy has to be innovative. We have to keep on acquiring the newer skills, sharpen those skills, and then deliver teaching accordingly. While this is being done, there should be some kind of teacher education programs which either are taken up by the school, or the teachers take it up them for themselves, or we can recommend to the colleges who are training the teachers depending upon the requirement. Now, while we are doing this entire exhaustive exercise, like I mentioned earlier also, you need to revisit assessments. Assessments, of late, I have seen that they are only checking the knowledge part, and that too, just the lower order skills of the children. So what they remember, what they understood, and little bit of application is normally what we assess. That is not the case. If we are looking at uh, producing children who are going to handle the future, they should be equipped with skills for the future. We need to understand that it is their higher order skills that we need to check. How much are they able to apply? How much are they able to evaluate, create something new? So are we looking into those aspects? So assessments, like I said, of and for learning, we have to have a good understanding of how to create very informative assessments. They should tell us what exactly has the child understood. And while we are doing this, the support from our seniors, from the management, from the school principal, from for the the local authorities, all this is very, very important. So if you are looking at creating a very strong curriculum, the first thing, like I said, you have to document it in a proper structured way. There has to be a design, a framework for your curriculum, and then there has to be a strategy for making it stronger, because it is not that we have created something and we just forget about it and we relook after 1 year. It is a process which has to be continually looked into, developed, restructured, revised. So again, I have some questions which are very helpful when we are doing a curriculum review. Normally, it is not that you are not doing anything. There will be many good things which a school is already doing, but perhaps we are not documenting it, because of which there is no follow up or upgradation. So when we sit down with our team to develop a curriculum, a strong curriculum, we need to keep in mind that there are good things that are already happening in the school. What are these good things that we are doing? And do we need to improve everything? No. There must be certain things which needs are looking into them immediately. There will be certain things which are already happening good. There will be certain blocks of work area which are very difficult to improve. So as a school, as an institute, we have to decide that what is it as my priority. Do I need to first look into these difficult areas? And if I'm looking at a change, I don't have to bring a drastic sudden change. I don't need to rock this boat. So without rocking the boat, how can I bring in change which is systematic, organized, well communicated, my team trusts me, and then we build up. These things are built up gradually. They don't come overnight. So one has to be patient, and it is a lot of hard work. So that, yes, of course, I can say, because I've been doing it for many years now. So, to strengthen the curriculum, the first strategy was you have to review your curriculum and you have to start working on it at some point. The second thing that we normally have to look into is how we can reboot the entire pedagogy. And see, you see, the biggest resource that the school has is the teacher. The teacher is a one resource which is going to make a lot of difference to the overall curriculum and structure of the institute. So I have listed down a couple of very simple pedagogical innovative techniques. Now, these techniques, if they can be implemented in your pedagogical process, they will give you good results, because you will see that children will start enjoying the curriculum. They will start becoming more participative, and the learning will be fun. It will be engaging. See, learning is something, we are acquiring a skill, we are acquiring knowledge about which we didn't know earlier. So it has to give you a joy. So learning, according to me, has to be very engaging, it has to be integrated, it has to have a lot of elements where the child becomes engrossed, engaged, and he becomes a lifelong learner. So let us look at some of these simple pedagogical innovative techniques. Of course, these are readily available on Google. You can always look for details and more know-how. And of course, there are schools who are doing this. So one is crossover learning. Crossover learning is like, for example, you've taken children for a field visit. So how do you link this educational content with with your educational content with the child's experience? Circle time, a very, very popular technique with children, with adults, where the teacher sits with the child, with the children, with her class in a circle. Everybody is having an eye contact, and it's more like a discussion which starts from the teacher's end and it goes to every participant, and then we end up creating something new. We end up learning a new skill. Inquiry based brainstorming techniques. In a very regular classroom, it is the teacher, she comes, she introduces a concept. Of course, that is one very good way of teaching. But I think now there is a need that we ask questions, we generate a thought process, we ask questions at the right time so that we get the right response and the child is led to the learning. So there are a lot of these visible thinking and learning techniques which can be applied in the classroom. And with my experience, I can tell you that these give you very, very good results, and children become very engrossed in their learning. They start taking ownership of their entire learning process. Computational thinking is another problem solving technique, which is kind of, you have a lot of data. How do you break it down? How do you decompose this data? Then you recognize a pattern, and of course, you sort it out. So computational thinking leads to algorithms, and it's something like, if you have to write a recipe for a dish, how will you do that? So computational thinking works very well with even small children. Collaborative learning, this is a very important tool which the teachers must use in their classroom, because the new age teaching is all about collaboration. The child who's there in your class today is not going to work in isolation when he goes into his workplace. He has to work in teams. He may be collaborating with people across the world and working on a project. But there are ways to do it. So collaborative learning should begin at the school level. And especially if we are talking about foundation skills, this is something which we have to teach right at the early years. Learning by doing. Again, practical learning is something which the child will remember a long time, because he has practically done it with his hand. He knows what the result was and how it went further. Storyboarding, a very stimulating technique where, with the help of cues, we create stories. Children are taught how to create stories. Teaching is done through storytelling sessions. One very important aspect of storytelling that we must keep in mind is that it has to have a perspective building as well. So narrating a story is not the complete work, because there are different characters in the story. we are telling the story from one perspective, but the different characters who are there may be having a different perspective. So what are these different perspectives of the characters? We must encourage a discussion of this. So we are going to develop the literacy skill of the child, where he is listening to you, he is arranging the data in a particular, he's seeing pattern, and then he is explaining something using a vocabulary which perhaps you have taught at some point in the class. So storyboarding is another very important tool that teachers can use, like flipped classroom, learning stations. These are all techniques and tools which teachers can use. But believe me, all this is possible, and a lot of other things are possible, provided we have a culture where everybody is innovative and teachers have a passion for teaching. That is the bottom line. Passion for teaching should be the first requirement, qualification for a teacher to become a teacher. So, these were the two steps to build a strong strategy. First was the curriculum review. The second is the pedagogical rebooting, which I spoke about. The third element, and a very important element, is assessment and evaluation. So assessment is when we are when we are identifying that what is the level at which the child has reached after I have taught or while I'm teaching. But evaluation is the degree to which we have been able to achieve our goals. So when we assess, after that we evaluate our result. Now, once we are evaluating and analyzing our results, we will see a pattern. We will see that there are learning gaps. So this cycle is very, very important, where the teacher, the school has to identify that what were the learning gaps which were noticed for the child. And once you have been able to identify these learning gaps, whether the child was not able to write well, whether the child was not able to comprehend well, whether the child was not able to see the pattern, recognize the data, what was it that you were assessing? So once I have been able to identify my learning gaps, then I need to design that corrective and preventive measures. So corrective will be that, okay, the child has not done this. All right, I need to give the child some remedial lessons, remedial classes, and then I will correct what the pattern went wrong. But preventive would be that next time when I'm teaching this age group, I think I will need to keep these points in mind while I'm teaching, because I noticed that children were not doing well in these kind of questions. So teachers must work a lot on preventive teaching, preventive measures of your assessment and evaluation. So this is a cycle which schools must follow if they want to develop a very strong curriculum. And all these give you reflection points. So when you are sitting with your team for a curriculum upgradation for next session, these reflection points are the things that will elevate your curriculum. It will enhance it. It will upgrade it. So I just have a small sample here, like one of the educational institutes, they have this objective that they want to achieve, like student achievement is their main objective, and they want to engage children in different activities, and they have to have a very structured system for their well-being. So it is very important for us to define our objectives. Basis this, if you see this pie diagram, you will see that there is a bifurcation, that because student achievement is their topmost priority, they will give a lot of weightage to excellence in teaching learning process. And then comes the engagement and well-being. So they are looking at a positive climate, they're looking at community engagement, they're looking at professional leadership, which they will foster in higher grades. So this is a sample which can be used while we are listing down our objectives and which area needs to be followed up to what percentage, because it cannot be that teaching is the only thing which is important for our school. There are other factors. There are other factors which become very important if we are looking at an overall development of our students. Of course, we call it holistic, and there are so many other terms that the jargons that we have nowadays. This is another framework which is there. This is a sample framework. So, like I mentioned in the initial stage, that we have to identify the need of our students. So, this one educational institute, they have identified that they are going to work a very big percentage on learning areas, and a different segment is going to work on the capabilities, the creative and critical thinking, ethical thinking. So this way, when we the first stage is that we need to know that what kind of curriculum are we going to build for our school, what are the needs of our student, what are our resources, and where exactly we are going to put in more effort, more labor. So all these things are the first stages of discussion for a curriculum development team. And then the tabular representation, which I showed you, can help you identify all of different areas. So in the end, I think the only thing, the suggestions that I can give you for a reform into this entire system is that you must have the goals and objectives set for the school, the teaching learning process, for your teachers, for your students. The curriculum has to be aligned with the policies. Of course, if it's a CBSE board school, we also need to keep in mind what is the requirement of the board, what is the philosophy behind this curriculum, how am I going to put this in a framework which is going to help me. If I just look at my framework, I know what I have to do in the school with the child, and what is it that I need to achieve these goals and objectives. I need to gather all my resources. Whether it may happen that for a particular concept, I need a team teaching, I need to bring in another teacher of another subject, but I need to know what resources I have. So then, of course, like we discussed, the assessments, the standardization. Now, the beauty of curriculum is that it's a standardized document. So even if a teacher is not there, you know what has to be done. It is not teacher centric. It's not that the teacher has gone and she took the curriculum with her, and now I'm absolutely stuck. What do I do? The curriculum is school's property, and even if due to some reason a resource is missing, the others will be able to pitch in and they will be able to handle, because it's all documented. Another very important aspect is that it has to be spiral. Concepts flow from one grade to the next grade. They're never taught in isolation. When we are teaching a concept, the child comes to me with the previous knowledge, and with this knowledge, I need to send the child to the next grade so that he can build up on the concept and the knowledge. So curriculums, they flow spirally up. Some schools call it spiral curriculum, some schools call it progression matrix. There are different terms that we can establish. And the last and the most important is that we must have a revisit. Like I said, continual development of your curriculum. You plan something, you do something, you take a pause, you relook into your system, you make some modifications, you add some elements, you remove some parts which were not working well, and then you move ahead. So it has to go continually up for a healthy environment. So I think this is it from my side, and I'm open to questions. I'm open to your queries. You may have a lot of questions, so please go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, as it is always said that sports is an integral part of education, in the school education, and
Yes.
if we see our from our experiences, like when we used to study, if the teacher's course is not complete, so he usually takes the sports classes and make their course complete. So, don't you feel that that makes the curriculum more lethargic? Because when a student is like going into the going through the classes from like since in the morning 9 till 2 or 3 with just a small recess break, so don't you think it will make it more lethargic?
Yes, and that is actually a very wrong trend, because what we do unintentionally, what we are doing with it is that we are de-evaluating the importance of sports. That's not a very important lesson. You can leave it and I will teach because my subject is very important. It is not that. Sports, physical well-being, emotional well-being are areas which are right now equally important. And it is not that academics have got a higher stature than sports. Normally, it should never be done, but it is done. There is a reason for that. There was one point which I covered in my presentation where I said that teachers need to review that the curriculum, the syllabus that we have planned, are we able to complete it in a proper time frame? And when we don't do that, we end up with a last minute rush of syllabus completion just before the examination. So that happens because I've not planned my lessons well. I've not timed my syllabus well. And it may happen that sometimes teachers are not available, they are on a leave, and because of that, syllabus suffers. But that is something which happens. It is natural and it happens. But for that, there are certain ways through which we can cover up that portion without taking away the library, the performing art, or the sports lessons. So, planning is the key word for that.
Yes, ma'am. And ma'am, as we see that in the COVID pandemic time, the world has been limited into their rooms right now, and so has the education. So, how to focus on the foundational learning skills, the foundational literacy and foundational numeracy, how to focus on that when we are into our homes, and many of the students in our country as well don't have the access to internet in this era also. So how can we assure them proper education and literacy?
So there are two ways of looking at it. One is, of course, children who have access to technology and who are taking these online classes. I think I will not comment for them. But what about children who are sitting at home and don't have access to this part? How do we teach literacy to them? So you see, we have to take help of somebody from the home, whether it's a parent or whether it's an elder sibling. One person has to, this is cooperative learning where we are collaborating with the parents. So parents will be able to execute, only if we tell them exactly what has to be done. So, if as a parent I have to teach sight words to my child, I should know exactly which words I have to teach the child and how. So, this what and how part the teachers will be able to list down only when they have a curriculum in place which tells them that for reading skill, if reading is your domain, then what are the sub skills? How do I stage it? So, like if I have to start with phonic, then how do I drill? How do I blend the two-letter, three-letter word? So, if as a teacher I know my curriculum well, I will be able to only then tell the parent what they have to do. So, in the regional language, in whatever language the parents are comfortable, if these handouts can go to parent, and sometimes we can have little encouraging parents, they can make flashcards, but for that a step by step guide has to be prepared for them. Only then will they be able to do it for the child at home. Otherwise it will become very difficult because the parent will not know what and how much they have to teach.
Yes, ma'am. And moving further, ma'am, as you were also saying that we are following certain set pattern of education, and in the field of literacy as well. So I would like to tell you that what we at Global Dream do in the field of foundational literacy and numeracy. So, ma'am, we at Global Dream have a vision of empowering every person with the skill of foundational literacy and numeracy. Our mission is to mobilize a movement for literacy for all, because we believe that literacy is for all, and
Yes.
we provide education to the out of the school children and as well as the underprivileged adults. So, ma'am, we have a literacy toolkit, a literacy
Okay.
material which we call as toolkits, which is currently being replicated into 13 different Indian languages. Those
Wow.
vernacular languages are Hindi, Bihari, Punjabi, Marathi, Tamil, and etc. And we are
Yes.
also working on two foreign languages, that is Swahili and Spanish, which those toolkits will be replicated in soon in coming future. And now I would like to just show you that how we work with those toolkit. So I'll be
Yes,
sharing my
yes, sure.
screen. So, like, ma'am, we have a pre-test and a post-test with us in the uh, toolkit. Like in the pre-test, we get to know that what is the existing knowledge of the learner, and we have a formula that ask, wait, and don't tell. So now, what we can see in the current education system, that teachers are much eager to answer the questions. Like if she ask some question, that what is the first sound of, like we can take like the what is the first sound of watermelon. So if this learner is not able to answer, she herself or himself will answer to it. So like we believe, like ask, wait, and don't tell. Let the learner himself or herself answer the question. So like you can
Exactly.
see,
Very,
we can.
very important. Very important, because when we create a culture of asking questions, that is where the child starts thinking. And that
Hmm,
thinking process is very, very important for foundation years.
yes, ma'am. And we use the pictorial representation, and also the power of phonic. So you can like see in the slide right now, that there is an image of watermelon and a tortoise. So like
Right.
in Hindi it is the tarboos and kachwa. So we ask the learner that what is the first sound of tarboos. So he will say tarboos, tarboos ki pehli आवाज ta. So we will
Hmm.
say very good. Now moving on to other, कछुए की पहली आवाज क्या है. तो he will say that कछुए की पहली आवाज क. So now we will ask him that आपके पास दो आवाजें हैं, आप उसको मिलाइए और देखिए क्या बनता है. So he will do ta ka, and now he will get the word tak. Similarly, we can see that बत्तख की पहली आवाज ब, सपेरा की पहली आवाज स, ब स बस. So with this formula, we say that we can make a learner literate in just 30 hours. 30 hours. If we if he or her, she will give us dedicated 30 hours, we can make him or her literate in just 30 hours. So and after that we do a post test also, that we get to know that how much is the learner able to learn. So it is not only in Hindi, it is also in English, it is in Punjabi language, it is in Tamil, it is in Telugu. So we have like now, till now we have replicated it into 13 different Indian languages. So ma'am,
Wonderful.
moving on, I would like to have a final comment from you, that how like we can work in this field and make certain changes, and what according to you are the coming changes in the field of literacy.
So, if you look at the changes that are happening in the literacy front, like I told you, that it is not just reading English, because literacy was taken as reading in English, but that is not the case. It is everything and anything to do with understanding the spoken and the written part. So teachers, if we look at a future trend, the first and the foremost thing is that we need to train the teachers. Unless a teacher knows exactly what has to be done in the class with that particular age group, it becomes very teacher oriented class, because I may have a different perception, you may have a different perception of teaching. So as a school, as a system, as a country, we have to focus a lot on teacher development, the professional development of teachers. That is very important. And like I told you, the initial research that we did and understood that how is it that a child who is normally good in mathematics because is responding well in the class is not able to do well in the paper because of the comprehension skill. So we have to also understand that these skills are not in isolation. They are interconnected. These subjects are all interconnected. So that is also very important thing that teachers have to keep in mind. And when we look at any kind of educational institute, whether it's a pre-primary school or a senior secondary school, they have to focus on these skills. These are very important skills, because if these skills are missing, the child will not be able to participate completely whether it's in the community or whether it is at the school front. So I think the present situation says that literacy and numeracy are becoming the most talked about, and it is not only in India, it is world over, that these skills are the skills which everybody is talking about, how to strengthen them. And as a country, we also have to exclusively work on this front, that how we can strengthen these skills. And I think the how part is if we can develop a very strong curriculum which is for my educational institute, because formula, if there's a formula, it that will not apply to all schools. It will have to be changed a little bit.
Yes, ma'am. And I hope that we collectively achieve the sustainable development goals, as
Yes.
mentioned in the time bound mission, in a time bound mission. So that is much important.
Yes, yes, yes. Because sustainable developmental goals is something again which is very, very talked about topic. And why schools are doing it, or why people are talking so much about it, again, it is important for our survival. If we don't talk, see, anything that we introduce to a child becomes a part of his learning, and then the child gets an awareness and is able to do something about it. So as a school, our role becomes to make the child aware of his role and responsibility, empower him with the right tool and know-hows. Only then will he be able to go out and do something about it. So sustainable goals again are very, very important things.
Yes, ma'am. And with this, we move to the end of the detox session. To learn more about Global Dream 30 Hours Foundational Literacy and Numeracy Approach, please visit www.globalream.guru. And you can also WhatsApp us on 740-840-6000. With this, I would like to thank Ms. Shalu Babbar ma'am for coming onto our session and telling us such wonderful things about the foundational learning and foundational literacy and numeracy curriculums, which needs to be changed in the school systems. And I would also like to thank our lovely audience for their kind support. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for accepting the invitation and coming on to the session of detox and telling us such wonderful things.
Thank you, Tanmay. It was my pleasure. And I hope that whatever I have spoken about, people may use a part of it and make a very strong curriculum for literacy and numeracy and develop children for the future country. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you and have a nice day.